Hello and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. Top of the table. We back, baby. I want you to put the word out there that we back up. We back up.
I want you to put the word out there that we back up. Understand me? We back up.
Churros! What's up, guys? Churros y Tácticas Podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobhani, joined today by my co-host, Churros Tácticas without the Y. We are here to review a very eventful weekend in La Liga. And you know, it's funny. My co-host and I were recording a podcast for our patrons on Friday over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. And you would think the way the conversation was going, that Real Madrid were relegated from La Liga and Barca had won the treble. And then woke up this morning and I was like, oh yeah, shit. Real Madrid are 7 points ahead of Barcelona. And just like that, not that, I have no idea what's going to happen by the end of the league. Maybe Barca will win the treble and Real Madrid will be relegated. It's very possible. But for now, I'll have this moment because I've had very little moments this season to cheer about. So I'm here. What's up, Churros? How you doing?
That's not fair. That's not fair. Your co-host on Friday said we could lose in the Copa, and then the Clásico effect will it fizzle away. That's not fair.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is not even, it was not even a comment specific to you. It's just more of a general comment. Like,
Who's me? I'm nobody.
Well, you're Churros. That's all I know. Who are you guys playing in the Copa del Rey? Oh, Valencia. That's right. You know what?
We pulled the tough one. No Madrid derby, Leganés.
Leganés knocked us out of the Copa del Rey before, mind you, in the Zidane era. Atletico versus Getafe is basically JLFC versus JLFC. Basically, who can create the most criminal activities in one game. And then Valencia Barcelona, I would have dismissed that completely if that was at the Montjuic, but given that it's at the Mestalla, it'll be like 1% more difficult for you guys. So do we have a bracket? Genuine question is, are Real Madrid and Barca kept apart until the final, or is it possible semifinal?
Semifinal draw. Sobhani, if you've noticed, there's a Basque derby, there's a Madrid derby, too.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a Catalan derby.
Catalan derby.
You know it. Valencia is Catalan territory. All the Uruguayans know it.
I don't know this, and I'm not sure I want to get into that conversation because I'm not an expert on Spanish geography. That's the word I'm looking for. Spanish geography and Spanish politics. That's your expertise. All right, man. Where do you want to start?
It's the equivalent of the United States of America calling Canada America.
Is that really the equivalent?
It's the equivalent.
Are we sure about that?
Of Trump calling Greenland America.
It's probably more. I don't know if that's the equivalent. I'm gonna stay away from that one. I don't think that's the equivalent. I had a great weekend. How about you?
Excellent.
Okay, that's it.
Fantastic.
All right, cool. I'll tell you why I had a pretty good weekend. On Saturday, I saw the Getafe Barcelona shit show. I missed the Atletico one, but I saw highlights. And then we obviously had a 4-1 win over Las Palmas. And we continued to get a very informed Kylian Mbappe. So that's why I'm happy. And I'm curious to know what your experience sitting through Barca Getafe was. Do you want to start there?
Expected. Kiyan Sobhani. For the past 3 now 4 years. Do you know what the results have been over in the Coliseum?
Between Getafe and Barca? No, please tell me.
Rewind the tape. 0-0 4 years ago. 0-0 3 years ago. 0-0 2 years ago. And 1-1 this year. So I skipped a year, but you catch my drift. All draws, low goal scoring margins. This was to be expected. Bordalas. The made over Bordalas. The before, now after Bordalas. With the same old tricks. The dark arts that we hate to see in football. Once again.
Dark arts. You know, you're right, man. You know what? First of all, Churros, I don't know if it's possible to turn up your Batman voice just a little bit, just so we can get a little louder version of you. What I heard what you said. You're right about the dark arts thing. I mean, I think, thank God that Barcelona saved the day with such beautiful football, like Gavi pushing people in the box and Rafinha slapping people in the face. That, you know, I'm so glad that Hansi's flick came in and saved football with his non-theatrics and non-dramatic and non-terrorist football. I'm very, very, very thankful for that. Very thankful for that.
I will make sure to ask, I believe his name is Hizmeti. Save this clip for the next time Madrid plays Getafe.
Hizmeti is actually, unfortunately, going away for like 2 months. So
is he? I hope your house is okay. I hope you and your family are fine.
Hizmeti's going away for a couple months, so we actually need a new social media editor. So that's a good reminder for me. If you guys want to apply to do some social media clips for us, DM me on Instagram at Kiyan. So,
Kiyan.
Yeah, jump in.
Sobhani. Please give my well wishes to Hizzy and his family. I hope him and his family in California are fine. Having said that, please do save this clip. The next time Los Blancos play Bordalas Getafe, remember what you said on this podcast. The dark arts won in the humble barrio of Getafe. The Getafe players went down like little bitches every time Barca even breathed their direction. Plus, I accept the push. I accept the shove. However, I didn't hear you mention the blatant penalty on Koundé not called.
Well, yeah, I thought that should have been a penalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I was mildly frustrated on the night. I believe that given the poor track record of the Catalan side playing away against Getafe would have been enough of a warning for this team to turn up on a night and make sure that they were as engaged, as efficient, and luck maybe wasn't on their side, but as electrifying as they are in the Champions League, as they will hopefully be tonight in a very tough away match over in Lisbon against Benfica.
Not as consequential, obviously, because you guys are pretty clear in the Champions League standings. But what is like the general consensus among Barca fans, would you say? Kind of an enigma, a weird season in that, you know, you destroyed Real Madrid so easily in those two Clásicos. But then there's just been so many points. What is it? 7 points, 7 games now in the league that you've dropped points. So what would you say? Like, to me, like the Clásico is almost your version of the Champions League final. Like for us, our problem in the league is always like someone needs to play the Champions League anthem in the dressing room and make them deluded into thinking it's a Champions League final for them to actually step up and be consistent. For you guys, it's like you guys need the Clásico anthem to blare in the locker room. You guys should just pretend, you know, like when I'm nervous and when I'm doing public speaking, I just picture everyone in their underwear in the crowd. when you guys are nervous playing in a game in the league, you guys should just picture a bunch of Real Madrid shirts as your opponent to calm the nerves and get the best out of you guys.
Again, and I would appreciate you not refer to me as you guys. I'm unbiased. I'm Churros y Tácticas. I swing both ways. I'll do it anybody.
It's all good. I have a lot of panda friends, bro. I love pandas. It's nothing against you personally.
That being said, the fact that this team is able to brush aside top European competition domestically as well, yet continues to underperform against the quote-unquote, with all respect, more humble sides, is something that the German manager Hansi Flick needs to address and needs to have a serious and stern look at. We've thrown away the league. We were leading. I say we. I mean the royal we. The polite. You understand what I'm trying to say. They were leading the league by 10 points over Atletico de Madrid, who have now dropped down the second. To have thrown, this might be a record, Kiyan Sobhani. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember the last time a team has made a comeback from such a large margin. But am I mistaken?
No, I mean it's actually a good question. I don't know. Certainly, like, it's not common. We've seen either Barcelona or Real Madrid kind of like kiss away the league before giving up sizable leads. So it's not that uncommon. But what was it? What was the point tally, Diego? How many points were Barca up by? Sorry, Churros.
By 10 points. I'm not sure who you're referring to. My name is Churros.
Was it actually 10 points?
Over Atletico de Madrid, yes.
Over Atletico, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. If you go on Transfer Market, they actually have a section like where it shows you. Oh, okay. Those are actually games. I'd be curious to know like where it does rank among like league deficits and comebacks. But either way, I mean, part of the reason that there was some time for Atletico and Barca to catch up is because it was a little bit earlier in the season that this happened. Having said that, if I would have had a guess that Real Madrid and or Atletico would have caught up to Barca in the league, it would have been over the course of like a season. But it literally happened overnight. Like it literally happened. Drop points. Yeah.
In 5 match days. Match day 14 to match day 19. Sobhani, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah.
I have never seen you this excited over a potential win of a league trophy in the 7 years that you and your co-host have been doing this podcast. Yet another pivot.
I'm not that excited. I just like to put a show on for listeners. Also, the fact that I haven't done the intro much this season, so it's like kind of just builds up inside you. Like last year I was, for years almost, I was just desensitized to doing the intro. So it was like, what else is there to do? At one point, I rolled the R's so hard that there was there were no more R's to roll. Like it was just infinite R's. Like I reached the cap. And so like after all, I was like, hello, welcome to the Churros y Tácticas podcast. Yes, Real Madrid are once again top of the world, top of Europe, top of Barca. And then this season, I just said I haven't had that. So, I was kind of starving for intros. And as you guys know, it's like, I log on to these shows to just also have fun. So, but if I'm to be really honest and you put me up to a lie detector test and like how excited am I actually about Real Madrid right now, it's still very low. As you know, what's most important to me is the Champions League, where we're not doing well in. We play tomorrow in a very important game. Again, we'll probably qualify to the knockout phase. That's not really an issue. But we're probably going to have to play that extra playoff game that the top 8 teams won't have to play. 2 games, rather. It's a 2.
What makes you say that, Sobhani? What makes you say that?
What makes me say which part?
Are you aware of the fact that the Blaugranas,
Yeah.
with a win tonight,
Yeah.
would mathematically qualify to the knockout stage?
Yes.
Are you aware of the fact that next week we play Atalanta, a direct competitor of yours and the Colchoneros? Meaning,
Interesting.
Barca could play Ansu Fati that match, I'm just saying. And maybe a couple of other players of the reserve team, and maybe not win that game. And are you aware of the ramifications of a Barca loss, if, of course, the Catalan side win today?
Well, what's interesting about this Champions League format, Mr. Churros? I have no idea, because this is, what's crazy is that Real Madrid are 20th in the Champions League right now. If they win tomorrow, they could theoretically bump up to like 9th. It's possible. Alternatively, if they lose, they could be out of the zone of qualification. So that Atalanta game, I'm not saying won't matter, but I honestly don't know. Like, it's weird because there's just so many teams, and the margin of error is so great that we've been pretty much ass in the Champions League. We have a goal differential of +1. You compare that to Barca's, which is +14. So despite us being terrible in this format, struggling offensively, struggling defensively, having lost 3 times out of 6 games, a win tomorrow could literally bump us up 11 places. It's possible. So I don't know. My hope is, Diego, and what's even crazier from there is if you bump up to the 9 to 12 range, you could literally sneak into the top 8 if you win your last game as well. But I'd wager we'll be safe. But it is an interesting scenario you bring up, that Ansu Fati could help eliminate Real Madrid.
Not eliminate. You just have to play an extra round.
Sure, I get what you're saying. I thought I think it was Arne Slot who had a very interesting quote today where he said, like, are you concerned about Champions League seedings and stuff, something to that effect? And he said that it's not really necessarily beneficial if you get a higher seed, because a lot of teams are not playing at their best in the league format and they get into the knockout phase. Like, if we get to a higher seed, we might have to face PSG, and that could be our reward. So I guess my theory is, like, I think you want to be in top 8. That's really the most important thing.
Who are you playing tomorrow?
Salzburg.
Salzburg.
Yeah.
Cakewalk. Walk in the park.
Yeah, just like every single one of our other Champions League games, which have been a cakewalk, aka the opposite of a cakewalk. Having said that, Salzburg are one of, like, the handful of teams who are doing worse than us, and they're doing quite bad this season. So
you're facing an Austrian side, while your franchise, quote unquote, franchise player is playing his best football. You surely fancy your chances.
yes, I do. And if we don't win that game, we deserve to be relegated from this tournament. So I'm at peace with both scenarios. We accept our fate.
And you would celebrate the league title, undoubtedly. I have many questions for you, Kiyan. But before we get into the spicy aroma part of this podcast, I do want to bring to your attention this Benfica Barça.
Please.
I'm expecting fireworks. This could be one where the 5-game winning streak of Hansi Flick's side could come to an end.
Okay.
Benfica are a contender to finish in the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got your favorite Madrid player of all time, Di Maria, who still continues to play football. And whenever he faces Barça, he plays the lights out. They are second in the Portuguese standings. They are coming off the back of winning the League Cup just last week. They're coming in hot. As I said, still within striking range of finishing within the automatic qualifications for the knockout round at home. How scared do the culés, aka Barca fans, need to be?
So it's funny you say Benfica are in contention for the top 8. Do you know how many points they're ahead of Real Madrid in the Champions League standings? 1. This is what I mean. Like, one win can get you jumped up by 10. But they actually could. Like, if they win that game, they could potentially get in the top 8. So what you're saying is true. How worried should culés be?
Is Di Maria going to be a nightmare once more?
Maybe. But you know what the consequences are of you guys losing that game? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. You will continue to be in the top 8 of the Champions League. And you will march on. So I wouldn't be too worried about it.
You know what? I think top 8 qualification is mathematically not 100% assured.
Sure. Yeah. It's also not 100% mathematically guaranteed that the aliens won't abduct me right now in the next 10 seconds. But
aliens
I like the chances.
Aliens have abducted me. I am a half alien.
I have nothing against it. But listen, you know what the biggest champion...
One more for all of you. I have heard that a lot of you watching are, in fact, Real Madrid loyals, to give you guys a little morale boost and hope of a potential quote-unquote upset that might happen. This Barca side hasn't won in Lisbon since, you tell me.
You're the expert. I don't know.
2012.
How many games? Like, through how many games?
Why you gotta ask me that? I don't know the answer.
It's like one game, probably. I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious. I need to know some more details, more numbers.
No, I know for a fact that they have faced each other multiple times in that time span. All that to say that the eagle of Benfica will soar high and will try to disrupt this humble Catalan side dressed in blue and red.
Well, Diego, you know that the biggest game...
Please stop calling me that. It's offensive.
I'm sorry. Churros. The biggest game, I think, actually is Atletico versus Leverkusen. I'm very excited for that one. Very, very excited. So, you know, when we do the Patreon edition over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas,
yes,
I think that game will factor into our discussion more than usual non-Real Madrid segments. So what are all these juicy questions you wanted to ask me? I'm very curious. Oh, we have a super chat. Do you want to save that for the end?
Yes.
All right. Feel free to ask the questions.
Oh, no. Please, let's give priority to
super chat. Okay. I thought you said yes, save it for the end. All right. Pranab Jadhav says, hopefully Balde doesn't, quote unquote, provoke Valencia fans now.
Pranav, I have heard that you are quite a loyal supporter of this podcast called Churros y Tácticas. Please, if you see this player called Alejandro Balde see him provoke opposing fans and players on a weekly basis, please come back with the same question. What happened in Getafe with Alejandro Balde has not been condemned neither by La Liga. It was disgusting. It was disgraceful. It has no place in football and has always been condemned here on this podcast, regardless of the color of the shirt and regardless of the color of the skin. Kubo Take received very insulting chants during his warm-up in his last game, which you'll forgive me, I'm blanking on. Clear tapes have come out where you hear the player being insulted for his Asian heritage, ethnicity, and yet nothing has been said. In fact, I will add one final point. Has there been any ramifications, repercussions from the Clásico that took place in the Bernabeu, in the league, for the black players of Football Club Barcelona being insulted quite audibly, understandably, that was condemned by La Liga, condemned by Real Madrid? The answer is no.
No, they detained those people.
La Liga has taken no actions, nor has the club.
Well, I can't remember La Liga's stance, but there were literally three Real Madrid fans arrested for that incident. They were arrested. Like, so action was taken. But either way, I mean, I don't. Obviously, the very easy answer to this, there's no such thing as, provoking racism. Racism should be absolutely denounced. It's abhorrent, and it has no place in football, in La Liga, or in life, whether it's Balde, Lamine Yamal, or Vinicius. It's a very, very clear answer to that. Nishlish Patel says, Mr. Churros, can you give us an audio cameo saying, quote, "I'm not wearing hockey pads," dialogue from The Dark Knight?
Oh, man.
Do you
Nishlesh,
want me,
please?
do you want me to bring it up so you can have a
I
reference?
love Batman. I love Batman. I am the number one Batman fan. I don't remember these lines.
You're kidding.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, should we risk the copyright strike and just
Please.
all right. Too bad we can't monetize this video now. But for the show must go on. We don't care about money here, obviously. Here.
I'm not.
Come on, Diego. That's iconic, bro. You got to know that, Churros, Mr. Churros.
I do. That's a fail on my part. And I will do better next time.
Did we get a reenactment?
I'm not wearing hockey pads. Did I say pants? I might have said pants.
You know what? To be fair, I always thought it was pants until right now. Nishlish said pads. I thought it always was hockey pants my whole life. All right, super chats. We've caught up. So let me know what your questions are now.
What were we talking about?
Oh, by the way, I'd like to make one more comment. What's going to happen is later tonight, I'm going to get an email from YouTube saying your video has been demonetized. You have the option of cutting out the Batman clip and remonetizing your video. So I might have to do that. So if there's a little gap in the podcast and then people watching this in the future are going to confuse, like, that's what happened. I wonder if I also have to cut out that other clip at the beginning, the we back up clip, maybe. Who knows? All right. Ask away, Churros.
All right. News has broken out that Alphonso Davies will be renewing his contract with Bayern Munich. I seem to remember that just last week, Davies was a topic on this podcast and his potential incorporation with Los Blancos. How do you feel now that your paisan will most likely not be joining?
Well, Bittersweet. I'm not 100% sure Davies was the exactly perfect fit for Real Madrid.
Early.
Let me finish my sentence. The other side of the coin was that I never thought I would have seen the day that a Canadian would play for Real Madrid. I always thought I would be the first Canadian to play for Real Madrid. I still might be the way this went down. But we finally had a player good enough to be a Real Madrid player. But I also knew that he always was going to be leaning towards Bayern because of his loyalty to them. So I'm not 100% surprised either.
You have sources.
Yes.
Some sources, some people say it was in fact Real Madrid that declined the option of acquiring the services of the Canadian.
No. I think what actually happened was he was always going to prioritize Bayern. And so it was always going for him. The plan B would have been if Bayern's new board really don't want him. If he would have felt pushed out. And long story short, because I've said this story before, he's extremely loyal to Bayern because they were a club that not only like brought him into the club, but also offered him a starting role when he was a nobody, a Canadian teenager. And Barca offered to bring him in as well, but they didn't offer him like they said, you come into our academy. We'll see where it goes from there. We'll develop you. Bayern were like, no, that's like, we don't do that. We're going to bring you in and you're going to start for us, which is just a crazy thing to do, to be fair. Like, so I understand why Davies would be like, well, thank you guys. I'm loyal to you guys. The new board, he had an agreement, a contract agreement with the old board. It was done. It was all but signed. The new board came in, had no idea about the old contract renewal with Davies. And so they had to have that conversation again from scratch. But instead of having it right away, it took them like basically a year later to even have the conversation. And he's been a little bit better this year because he kind of dipped a little bit last year. And so, yeah, his priority was always going to be Bayern. And I think if Real Madrid were going to swoop in, it would have had to have been a combination of two things. Thing number one is that Bayern's board just didn't want him at all and tried to push him out, and Kompany didn't want him. And combination two would have been like Real Madrid would have needed to offer a lot more. Like, it couldn't have been a situation of just matching the salary. So that's my read on it.
I've got two more.
Okay.
Last night, a highly reputable football journalist that is the host,
Mr. Satan,
of an even more reputable,
Bona Blaugrana,
the host of an even more reputable football talk show, late night talk show here.
El Chiringuito.
Correct. Giuseppe Pedro announced
Reliable. Come on.
that
if you said Jose
Alexander
Luis Sanchez,
Arnold,
I would have been like, okay. But Pedro, not gonna reliable. I don't know about that.
I'm talking about the man, Giuseppe Pedro, who claims he is friends, if not best friends, with Florentino Perez. He claims that Trent Alexander-Arnold will play for Real Madrid and come for free in the summer. He said the deal is done. He has signed.
Is that the same guy who said Mbappe was done like 8 years ago?
I highly doubt that. Listen, I need to just please answer the question. I'll be right back.
You didn't ask me a question. What was the question?
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
That's not a question. What's the question? You just tell me what he said. If the question is like, what do I think about Trent? I've been pretty vocal about Trent. Trent is a generational attacking right back. He improves Real Madrid's ball progression. He improves Real Madrid's press resistancy. He improves Real Madrid's set pieces. There are defensive question marks surrounding the team and the surrounding pieces and the overall scheme you need to implement to make that work. But I co-sign on getting Trent for free. Totally co-sign. So, and again, like, you know, whether these reports are true or not, I mean, I have no idea. But my hunch is that, like, it would make sense that Pedro would report it because the stars align. You know, he hasn't renewed with Liverpool. He has a great friendship with Jude Bellingham, and I think the most obvious piece, which is Real Madrid need a right back yesterday. Like, it is by far the most urgent need in the squad, more than center back, more than left back. So,
did you get that? Trent Alexander-Arnold has reportedly signed for Real Madrid.
I literally spent the last 45 seconds talking about it while you were gone. So I don't
Great. Okay.
Was there a specific question in there, though? Or it was just
congratulations on signing, you know, ex-Liverpool player. Congratulations on many more years.
We'll see. Nothing is set in stone.
Looks like you got a new president as well.
Yes.
The dictatorship continues.
You know what? Let me say something. Even though it is the same physical body of the same president, it is, the way I like to look at it, a new president every time, because it's a president with new learning, more experience. So it is a new president, if you ask me.
Sobhani, my time is up.
All right. We barely discussed anything else. I mean, I guess we can wrap it here. Churros, do you want to tell us when? Oh, we have one more super chat, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Pranab is back. He says, start, bench, sub. Total Barca, Mr. Satan, Rashad, Remen. I don't know that last one, but I sell both Total Barca and Mr. Satan, which makes Rashad, Remen both a starter and off the bench to make up for the absence of those two. Unless this guy is worse than those two, which I highly doubt. What's your take?
Satan starts always. Total Barca. Sub. What's worse? What's worse between sub and bench?
No. Oh. I think he meant to say start, bench, sell.
Bench, Total Barca, Rashad, I will sell.
Damn, shots fired at Rashad Remen. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Sell all of them for all I care. But sell for sure the first two. Awesome. Thank you so much, Churros. We'll be back over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. If you thought this episode was weird, with some just weird moments and weird pauses and weird tension and weird visuals, it gets even weirder. Patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas, where Mr. Churros and I, we do one podcast per week for our patrons, and we answer every single question that comes in. And the questions are always juicy, and the answers are even juicier. So thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. Kiyan Sobhani signing off. Mr. Churros Tácticas. Mr. or Mrs., I'm not entirely sure, but Churros Tácticas.
Trump said there's only two genders, so I would call myself from a male persuasion.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace out.